There.
Oh my God, it's on, and we're on time too.
That's absolutely right.
That's pretty amazing considering the flurry of madness. Anyway, you're supposed to do the introduction.
That's right. Hello, this is Bill Peschel, and this
I'm
is Teresa
Teresa.
Peschel, and today this is Agatha Christie They Watched, and today we're discussing The Man in the Brown Suit, the 1989 TV movie starring Stephanie Zimbalist, Rue McClanahan, Tony Randall, and Edward Woodward. And for those of you who remember the 80s, this is a time capsule.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And when you see Rue McClanahan, you know that she is taking a break from her role as Blanche Devereaux in Golden Girls, because by God, there is Blanche on the ship.
And she is Blanche Devereaux in this movie.
Devereaux in this movie. She is working on husband number 6.
That's right.
Because she's just finished with Mr. Blair, husband number 5. And
and she is as Blanche Devereaux could ever be.
Yep, right down to the fabulous of the moment wardrobe. Every single moment that you see Rue McClanahan on stage, she is perfectly turned out, perfectly coiffed, perfectly dressed for the occasion, whatever it is.
Yep. Now, as a little bit of background, and here we're going to adjust the camera just a little bit because it looks like we're in a Batman TV episode here.
The color on my shirt is all blowing out.
Well, it's a lighting issue. Let me go turn off the light. Why don't you hold up Man in the Brown Suit?
Oh, right. Okay, I can do that. I can do that.
Is.
Okay, I can hold that up. Anyway, let me adjust it so that you all can see the cover. See, Blanche has reminded me that I used to live in South Carolina for years. Anyway.
Oh, yes, we're doing this on the fly, aren't we? Yeah.
This is why you should rehearse, folks. Anyway, we annotated for the American audience, because it is, the Man in the Brown Suit is out of copyright in the U.S. and I think in Canada, but not elsewhere. So sorry, all of our English viewers.
Everywhere except the UK and the EU.
Yeah, but we annotated The Man in the Brown Suit, and so of course you get the entire novel, and then you get hundreds of footnotes and pictures and maps and every other kind of thing that you can imagine to make this a better reading experience. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with The Man in the Brown Suit, this is Agatha's 4th novel. This is her 4th novel, and it is actually a romantic thriller. People do not associate Agatha Christie with romantic thrillers, but she wrote several of them. And it is very much the story of Anne Bedingfield, who is longing for adventure. She finds herself, this is so romantic, this is so thrillery. It's so perfectly fits into the genre. But you've got Anne Bedingfield, who is simply desperate for adventure. She's orphaned, she's alone in the world. She goes to London, she has no prospects, and then she sees a man murdered on the tube.
Well, he falls in front of a train on the tube. But he's scared by somebody, scared by something or someone.
Yeah, scared by somebody or something. And she says, adventure is calling. I need to do something. I need to heed the call of adventure. And she decides that she talks her way into a job with an English newspaper. She discovers that a murder took place that was possibly connected to the death of this mysterious man on the tube. There's a mysterious man in a brown suit who was seen on the site, and she ends up basically bankrupting herself in order to put herself on the Kilmorden Castle, headed a cruise ship headed for South Africa. And a lot of this novel is actually based on Agatha's own experiences with her husband Archie when they went around the world on the grand tour for the British exhibition. And Agatha really did go to all of the places that Anne Bedingfield goes to. She really did. She really did buy giraffes, beautiful wooden giraffes that you can still see in Greenways, her home in England. She really was caught up at one point with rebels running loose in South Africa.
Johannesburg.
In Johannesburg. There were moments when they really feared for their lives, whether they would make it out alive.
They were kept out of the way, but it definitely happened and it affected their travel plans.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And this book came out, by the way, we just want to add that this book came out a couple of years ago, and it's a fascinating insight into Agatha Christie because it's a collection of all the photos that she took along the way, her letters home.
A wonderful, wonderful book. And it shows a side of her that you don't think of, because this is all before the 11-day disappearance, when she is still young and vibrant and not afraid of the snapping jaws of the media. She is not she is not afraid of reporters at this point in her life.
Yeah,
because nothing bad has happened yet.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing a little snapshot of her and Archie when they were young and in love and in happy and on this grand adventure around the world. And it's a great book. Absolutely a great book. Matthew Pritchard, her grandson, put it together, and they did a fabulous job. We can't recommend it highly enough.
With very little kind of known about Agatha Christie personally, apart from her autobiography. You know, she rarely appears in other people's memoirs. I've seen like 2 mentions, brief mentions, and that's about it. And there's more, of course, the biographers have access to her letters and all kinds of information. But for the rest of us who get our information outside of a research library, the Grand Tour and it's still a wonderful book. It's really worth getting if you're an Agatha Christie fan. So anyway, that's the background for Man in the Brown Suit.
And I want to continue. This is a romantic thriller. There is a mystery, and in fact, Agatha is already playing with unreliable narrators. You'll see that it's narrated by 2 people, Anne Bedingfield and Eustace Pedler, and they both have their own agendas, and they see what they see, and they write about what they write about. But it is really a romantic thriller, and there are parts in it where any romance reader would recognize, such as when the mysterious stranger breaks into Anne Bedingfield's cabin at the high seas, and she's wounded, and she has to tend to his wounds, and Agatha's very discreet in the text, but anyone who has ever attended to an injured man knows perfectly well you have to strip off his shirt and look at his manly chest and shoulders. And I'm sure her audience was simply panting
with their imagination. They have to use their imagination more than people do today.
Yeah, people don't have to
use all on the page.
Yeah, it's all on the page. You don't have to use your imagination. But this is a romantic thriller. Right. And it is a romance from start to finish, complete with a happy ever after. And Anne Bedingfield is very happy at the end with her wonderful romantic stranger.
Yep. Now this happens. What they did was they made this a contemporary, so it's
Oh yes, the movie. We're here to talk about the movie.
Yeah,
right,
the movie takes place in whatever present day, 1989.
1989.
And boy, is it a different world, because it starts in the airport in Cairo, even though all this was filmed in Spain, so they had to do a lot of work to kind of make it all look. And they did a pretty good job.
They really did a pretty good job, because Cairo is another city, and of course, cities all start looking alike. And the thing is, if you're filming and you're telling your audience that some Spanish city is Cairo, well, as long as you don't show the pyramids, how would you know?
Yeah,
one souk looks very much like another. So it's 1989 Cairo, and they film on a real ship. I don't know which ship they were on, but they were on a real ship.
I wanted to start though at the airport, because they're at the airport, and Anne and her girlfriend
Valerie,
they were on a European tour, 11 cities in 10 days, and Anne is restless.
Anne wants to do more things, and Valerie is really pissed off. They're good friends, but Valerie is really pissed off at Anne because Anne has already screwed up the tickets, so they end up in the Cairo airport instead of on their way home to Buffalo, to Valerie's job at the Blockbuster and Anne Bedingfield's job as a photographer. And she is obviously, from the way she describes it, she is obviously a photographer for the Sears studio at the mall. And if you remember, everybody used to get their pictures down at Sears at the photography studio. Well,
so already this has a strong 80s vibe, and never mind the fashions and the hair.
I mean, the fact that you can be in an airport and just run around loose, I mean, it's so
without armed guards tackling you,
and without having TSA and having to wait 3 hours in line, just to roll up your pants legs and show your knee braces, which I have had to do.
It's akin to Die Hard, smoking on the plane coming in, and and you can bring your gun on the plane. This is the vibe.
This is a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
And Valerie is really pissed off at Anne. And when Anne sees a man rushing around, and she wants adventure, and there's the call of adventure, and just like in the novel, only now it's current day Cairo in 1989. She sees a man run out into the street because he's afraid of something, get hit by a car, and the first man on the scene is that mysterious man in a brown suit who attends to his wounds, and then Anne realizes he's not a doctor. And events just like the novel. It is really remarkable how closely, for a 1989 contemporary TV movie, the film follows the book.
Right.
And then Anne meets Colonel Race, who is an additional character.
Well,
but
you got to back up a little bit because she finds a clue. There's Kilmorden Castle, and there's like a
mysterious string of numbers.
Mysterious string of numbers. And of course, she's taken in. The police take her in because she's a witness.
American Embassy.
That's
American
right.
Embassy. And then someone from the American Embassy shows up, and it's the White Shadow. And
played by the White Shadow TV show we're talking about for those
of
you
you
youngsters.
Remember. And in fact,
Ken Howard.
Ken Howard.
And
in fact, I forgot our heroine, Anne Bedingfield, is played by Stephanie Zimbalist. And if you remember Remington Steele, she was the Remington Steele girl with a young, stunningly gorgeous Pierce Brosnan, who went on to a much bigger career than she had. And she did a fine job as Anne Bedingfield. And the novel, this film illustrates one of the difficulties of translating novels to films. What do you do with a novel that is essentially narrated in the first person?
Mm-hmm.
How do you film that? Because movies are really not good at doing the thinking part out loud. They really aren't. And so what the movie does is it has Anne Bedingfield. She likes to talk to herself. She talks herself through everything. And so what would be thoughts on the paper are Anne talking to herself in, okay, what am I going to do next? Wait a minute. This is what happened, and 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 this is, okay, so this is what I'm going to do next. And it's a little awkward, but at the same time, how do you adapt all of this internal monologuing to the screen? And so that was the directorial choice, the scriptwriter's choice for this particular film.
And
so
then
if
later,
you can go with it,
when Rue McClanahan shows up as what was her character's name?
Susie Blair.
Yeah, Susie Blair.
Even though you will say Blanche Devereaux all the way through.
Then you have then she has a Watson to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So then this is a TV movie, and there is certain amounts of cheese involved. As a matter of fact, the biggest one, I think, is the commercial breaks.
Where the screen irises down to a diamond because, of course, there are stolen diamonds
involved. So they do that, and you automatically know, okay, here, the music swells and the diamond appears to black out the screen. And then, of course, they reverse it to let you know, okay, we're back in. And they didn't bother trimming this out for the DVD version, but that's all right.
Okay. That's okay. It gives you a chance to say, okay, time to pause the DVD and go get a snack.
Mm. Yeah, sure. Just like in the old days of television. That's right.
Well, yes, just like in the old days of television.
Yeah, broadcast TV.
But it's really startling how close it is and how fun it is. And she meets Colonel Race, who shows up at the Cairo police station while she is trying to search for more clues, and he really wants to put her back on that plane to Buffalo. And you be a good little girl and do what you're told and get on the plane and go back home to Buffalo. And she is thinking, you can see it very clearly, I'm not listening to you. Why should I listen to you? And she's reluctant. And then another clue surfaces for her.
Well, she tracks Kilmorden Castle to a cruise boat.
Yeah, well, she's waiting for the plane back to Buffalo, and
she cashes in the ticket to pay for
the ticket.
So she is burning her bridges behind her. And again, what's really nice about this is that Stephanie really embodies Anne Bedingfield.
She really does.
She really is. She's spunky. She's adventurous. She's not a girl boss. She has limitations, but she is active.
She's very resourceful. She is very resourceful. She is very active. She thinks. She is not quite, she is not going to be able to, she's real, I guess is what I'm trying to say. She is a very realistic character for this sort of thing, because she doesn't turn into action girl where she's able to beat up 10 men without breaking a sweat or having to take off her high-heeled shoes. And in fact, there is a scene where she has taken off her high-heeled shoe, and it comes apart.
High flats, really. They weren't high-heeled shoes. She was wearing.
That was a 2-inch heel.
But it's not. We're not talking spiked.
No, it
heels.
wasn't a pair of stilettos, but it was a 2-inch heel,
Right.
which is still not what you would call a flat shoe. I mean, it wasn't even a kitten heel.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Just take my word for it.
Yeah, that's fine. She uses it to get out of her. She's jailed at one point, or in a house with these bars on it, and she discovers one of them is loose, and she starts working at it. So she is.
And when she leaves the jail, when she climbs out the window, she is barefooted.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs through the streets of Cairo barefoot.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, they're in Mombasa. By this time, they're in Mombasa. And
they're a little loose with African geography here.
Well, no, you can sail from Cairo. You go down through the Red Sea, and then you go around the Horn of Africa through the Indian Ocean until you come into Mombasa.
Right. So where are the Thomas Falls?
I think they renamed Victoria Falls. They renamed Victoria Falls
Thomas Falls,
not Thomas Thompson.
Thompson Falls, which is still.
They should have been Stanley or Livingston or anything with a great English explorer name, or Albert Falls.
Yeah.
That would have been a better choice. But they named it Thompson Falls, and maybe there really is a Thompson Falls outside of Mombasa, and I have no idea. I should have looked that up.
Yeah, more likely outside of Madrid, which is where they were filming.
I know, but you could have a Thompson Falls outside of Mombasa, and then you just use the waterfall that you were filming at in Spain and say Thompson Falls outside of Mombasa. But anyway, they're outside of Mombasa. She's in Mombasa.
Well, let's go back to the cruise ship, because of course that's where they meet all the cast
members.
That's
right. She's on board the cruise ship, and she spends some time with the tour guide, the travel agent. And boy, there's another 80s flashback for you folks. She's with the travel agent, and he's talking about, well, this is how much first class is going to be. This is how much second class is going to be. And she's like, okay, well, is there like steerage? We call that tourist class these days. And she goes in steerage, and she meets everybody on board, and there's Colonel Race, who is shocked and horrified to see her, and like, why aren't you on the plane to Buffalo?
Yep.
And
of course, why is he there?
And she meets this bizarre, almost a caricature of a crazy evangelistic minister who is just determined to make sure that you say creepy stranger. That's played
by Tony Randall.
Tony Randall. He shows up in this movie as 4 separate people, if you're paying attention.
Spoilers.
But I haven't identified any of it. 4 separate people. She meets Blanche Devereaux, who is so happy to meet someone that she can talk to on board the ship, and Sir Eustace Pedlar, who is this Bertie Wooster, all grown up, this kind of upper class twit,
played by Edward Woodward,
the Equalizer.
So if you think of the new Equalizer movies, I can't remember
Denzel
Washington. He played the original role, so you can imagine Denzel Washington playing a Bertie Wooster type on board a ship, and you kind of get the idea that this is going to be a very silly movie, and it is, but it's really fun.
And Sir Eustace, who knows Susie Blair, and he had invited her on this particular cruise, and he also has his secretary, Mr. Underhill, who is also very suspicious. And the reason why he has behaved suspiciously is, again, right out of the novel, and there's an entire novel's worth of material there. Mr. Underhill's story,
played by actor and Nicholas Grace, and he's kind of pop-eyed and kind of swarthy. If you think Joel Cairo back in not Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, he kind of had that vibe, that creepy vibe,
just a little edge of creepiness. The hair slicked back, and
but Tony Randall he was just playing this. I mean, he had greasy hair, and he's crying about lust, and he drops his suitcase, and all these Bibles fall out, and he's saying, "No, don't touch it, you filthy people!" And it's the crew, the white-coated crew, not anybody you would think of as filthy, but he went
over the top with all the bad stereotypes about a missionary, and no missionary would ever do this because it offends the natives that you're trying to convert.
Yeah.
And it's so over the top that you can't take him seriously, and you realize that this is actually pretty good cover.
Yeah, it could be.
And, a lot of this is pretty good cover.
It's what Agatha likes specializing in.
Yeah, that who you see is not who you see. But oh my gosh, I forgot totally. The movie opens similarly to the way the novel opens, which is that you're seeing this nightclub scene where you have this seductive girl singer, and she's singing in this nightclub, and she points casually to these two handsome young men who look a little bit similar in appearance. These two handsome young men, and then the police come in, including Colonel Race, and arrest them. And then you see her a little bit later on, the nightclub singer. She is so confident and so happy, and she drives off to this grand house. And the next time you see her, she's got two big bloodstains on her white dress. And there's the man in the brown suit who we just saw at the nightclub, and he's leaning over her body. And then the next time you see him, and this is beautifully set up, the next time you see him, he is leaning over the body on the street of Cairo, on the streets in Cairo, and
outside
then he
the airport.
outside the airport. And then he appears on board the Kilmorden Castle, and you know he's going to be not just an important character, but clearly a villain of some kind. But Agatha likes to play things up, and so it can I reveal a spoiler now?
I guess so.
Well, he's the one who breaks into Anne Bedingfield's cabin in the middle of the night because he's been injured, and she has to tend to his wounds. And then at the costume party, when she's wearing a very sexy harem dancer dress, he shows up as a sheik because it allows him to cover his the lower half of his face, and because too many people on board know him, including Colonel Race, and he works hard at staying out of the view of Colonel Race.
So yes, there's a numerous meet cutes between him and Anne, and he escapes.
And at the end of the at the halfway point, when they arrive in Mombasa, he is able to escape the ship, because how do you get off the gangplank? Well, how do you get off the ship without going down the gangplank? Well, what you do is you leap into the water and swim through the harbor of Mombasa, and God knows you would want to take a shower. And you got to the end, because who knows what is in that water from all the ships dumping their sewage.
Yeah, but eventually it gets revealed this is all about stolen diamonds, and I won't go into the intricacies of the plot, but apparently he needs the diamonds to help
prove his
innocence
from a diamond theft at the Kimberley mines. Diamonds play an important role in this. Mistaken identities, stolen identities, people not being who they are. I will say that Susie Blair, that's Rue McClanahan, is clearly Blanche Devereaux from start to finish. And Anne Bedingfield is clearly who she is from start to finish. But after that, every single person you meet on that screen.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah,
all of
them have secrets.
All
and
of them
alternative identities.
Yes, Colonel Race does. Mr. Underhill, the secretary, does. Sir Eustace does. The Reverend Chichester does. Every major character on that screen, with the exception of Anne. And the mysterious hunky stranger, the Harry Lucas. They all have multiple. They all have at least one other identity or a hidden past, or something that they can't reveal for various reasons. Anne Bedingfield is who she says she is. Susie Blair is who she says she is. And I will say this film also passes the Bechdel test in spades, because Susie and Anne, named female characters, are discussing the murder and stolen diamonds and where have you been and what are we going to do next. And it's only peripherally, and they do discuss men too, because how could you not with that handsome, mysterious stranger.
And Blanche being Blanche.
Blanche being Blanche. But that's not their main focus. Their main focus is the mystery and what are you going to do, and how are we going to how are we going to read this clue? Yeah,
and the plot is in service to the romance, because there's a particular point when they're at the falls at Thompson Falls, and Anne gets in a way lured out into a trap, and she's injured, and she's rescued by the handsome man, and she wakes up in bed
covered only with a sheet. But this being 1989 TV movie, all of it is implication.
Yeah. There's no, you're not seeing seeing any skin.
Oh my God. If this would have been an ITV production, you would have seen everything, because that's what they do. But CBS in 1989 had standards.
Yeah. But it was still, they had lovely byplay, and they argue over the diamonds. She's trying to find out, what was it they keep saying to me? Who are you? Who are you?
Yes.
I asked first.
And Anne Bedingfield is who she is.
Yeah.
But you can't say that about anybody else other than Susie Blair.
So this is, and So the romantic scenes are in service of the plot. I don't know what else we could actually say, except there were a couple of references. I remember Ben the rat.
Ben the rat gets a reference, gets a shout out
gets
when
a
you see
little
the
shout out.
giant dead rat. And this is part of the plot to get Anne to change cabins, because
And this
the
is
cabin
earlier
is earlier in the film, and you get the giant dead rat, and it's like, ah!
Yeah, take Ben with you. And you have to look it up. And Ben was a movie from 1972, and there was Willard before that. It's actually a sequel to Willard. Willard, I think, was the boy who raised the rat, and it turned out to be vicious. It was one of those early horror movies.
And I think Michael Jackson did the song.
Michael
Ben,
Jackson,
very young
theme song to Ben in 1972. God knows how old he was. He wasn't 18, that's for sure.
Oh my God, he must have been like 12.
Yeah. So again, for those of us who grew up in those times, it is a weird
flashback all the way through.
And seeing the 80s again in all its glory, right down to the women wearing the must just fell out of bed hair.
Except Susie Blair,
except
who's
Susie was beautifully coiffed.
Oh, and
as appropriate for a woman her age.
Yes, a woman of her age and social status. And that was another thing is that they did right is Susie Blair, remember, this is Blanche Devereaux taking a short vacation from Miami. She is beautifully turned out. She obviously has a huge wardrobe with her. Whereas Anne Bedingfield, she only has the one small bag that she was traveling across Europe in. Everything is stuffed into a duffel bag. And so you see her in essentially the same clothes throughout until she ends up wearing Harry Lucas's short shirt belted over the same pair of shorts. Those are the only clothes she has.
Yeah.
And so unlike with so many movies, you do not see her traveling the world with obviously an army of ladies' maids carrying trunks full of clothes. She's wearing what she has, and that's the way it is.
Yeah. So, again, we like the movie very much.
It was fun.
The end kind of fell apart a little because, of course, they're trying to wrap up all the loose threads. And
there was a big one that they missed. There was a big one that they missed about Mr. Underhill, but we'll let that slide. But yeah, it worked out even at the end. And this is where a good actor comes in, because Edward Woodward plays Eustace Pedlar as the upper class British twit, and like everyone else on screen, he has something to hide. And when he comes down in his this lordly caftan, this wonderful caftan, he's a different person. He is not that.
Think of him as that stern type he played in the Equalizer.
Yeah, he's
stern, humorless. He's revealed for who he is.
He stops being Bertie Wooster.
Mm-hmm.
He stops being Bertie Wooster, and boy, is my face crooked. He stops being Bertie Wooster. He suddenly becomes a different person, who he really is, and that's one of the interesting things about this novel is. As I said, it was Agatha's fourth novel. By this time, she had written several plays, even though many of them weren't. Most of them have never been published, as far as I know. And she'd written poems and dozens of short stories. But she was already working out what you think you know is wrong,
mm-hmm.
and you cannot. Anybody can be the murderer. Anybody can be the victim, and you can't trust necessarily what people tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all themes that she used throughout her life. And the Man in the Brown Suit really starts to show them, especially, can you really trust what the narrator is telling you?
Which she used to such brilliant effect in the Roger Ackroyd.
Which came two books later.
Yeah.
Because she did this, and then she did The Secret of Chimneys, and then she wrote The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
And if you look at her style from Mysterious Affair at Styles, where she still had some of the Victorian anachronisms in her prose, her improvements over the course of these four books or so is really remarkable. But then she was writing a lot. God knows how many short stories do you think she wrote in this time?
Oh, dozens. We have there it is. No, it's in back. I'm having a little trouble with right and left. But in International Agatha Christie, she watched, and you can see
it's over back here.
This hand.
That's
no.
It. See this side.
I can't. It's on this side of my head. There.
Yeah.
There it is. You can see it behind us. But one of the things we did in International Agatha Christie, she watched, and I think we're one of the very few places where you can easily get it, is we have a chronological listing of all of Agatha's writing from the time that she was a young girl. And by the time she got around to The Man in the Brown Suit, which I think was 19...
I think it's a little later because they're Secret Adversary. So we're talking 28.
No, because
No,
1926 was Roger Ackroyd.
Oh,
So I think it had to have been sometime in 1923 or 1924. But anyway,
but the point though is that
if you can see this, folks, this is how much she wrote starting when she was a teenager.
Yep. Basically on the right side of the page down here are all the things that she wrote and published.
She wrote
during 23, 24, and part of 25.
She wrote an incredible amount of stuff. And she grew as a writer with each story. And you can see how she grew as a writer by the time you get to The Man in the Brown Suit. And she had a romantic streak, and she wrote romantic short stories. And you want to make the book stand up because...
Of course, dear.
Make the book stand up, dear. This is advertising. Everything falls down.
Of course. Of course. It wouldn't be funny otherwise, would it?
No, it wouldn't be funny otherwise.
All right.
But she was really growing as a writer. And people pigeonhole her as a genre mystery writer. But she wrote a lot more than genre mysteries. And even her mysteries, none of them were ever what I would consider to be cookie cutter, having dutifully plowed through many genre mysteries, and you've read even more.
Yeah.
This is a romantic thriller. Don't go in expecting a mystery. Expect romance. And you will be rewarded.
As well, though,
and you will
there
get
are
a
things
mystery.
that there are revelations.
There are many revelations, many startling revelations.
But if you like to see the movie, it is available on YouTube, which I guess shows you just how much people care. But it's available on YouTube. It's a real quick movie. How long? It was
about 90 minutes.
About 90 minutes. Yeah,
about 90 minutes.
Probably less because they had to have ads. But if you're in the mood for silliness, done straight, because everybody plays this straight down the line.
Absolutely.
There's no winking, there's no nudging or anything like that. And I find Stephanie Zimbalist, I admit I had a crush on her during the Remington Steele phase. So she is the cute girl next door that is really fun to be
around. She is looking for adventure, and she's very realistic in that way. She really is.
Yep.
And it's a fun movie that goes with a fun book. And we are not going to be here. I'll tell everybody now, we're not going to be here next week, Thursday live casting, because we have to go to Delaware for the Harrington Book Festival. I'm going to be the headliner at the Harrington Book Festival in Harrington, Delaware. I'm going to talk about From Books to Movies. So we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to watch the second version and discuss it on our live stream of The Man in the Brown Suit. And this is the French Les Petites Mortes version. And they take the opening throwaway paragraphs at the beginning of chapter 1 and build the entire story from that.
Yep.
So no Anne Bedingfield, no hunky mysterious stranger, no stolen diamonds. It's the opening tiny bit about the Colonel and the spy plot, which Agatha doesn't deal with at all.
They just build a whole lot of backstory to that. So that's going to be on October the 2nd.
Yes, that'll
11:30. We'll be there for that.
October the 2nd.
And in the meantime, I hope you read an Agatha Christie and enjoy it. And I guess we have to come up with a good tagline for this as well. But thank you so much for showing up. Oh, that's right. A kiss at the end of the rainbow. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you next week. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.